Day of the spiritual ranges of the mind with Dr. Basu, Dr. Sumitra Basu. Before we start, let's have a moment's silence. Thank you. Thank you. I'll now hand over to Monica to introduce the next session.
Thank you, James, and very warm welcome to everyone. So the 5th day of the workshop today, and from the planes of intuition, Dr. Basu will take us even towards thinner air, I would say, into the planes of overmind, the global consciousness. And with this, I would also like to just take a few lines for those of us who are new here to NAMA. It's a journal of integral health. Dr. Basu is the founder editor also there, and James is coordinating editor, and many relevant and I would say important articles in the field of integral health get published again and again. So for those of us who would be interested in subscribing to the journal, they can get in touch with James. There is also an e-format of the journal, and there is also a hard copy that comes out. So it would be an interesting pick for those of us who have not yet subscribed. And with that, I'll hand it over to Dr. Basu for taking us to Overmind and giving us glimpses of Overmind and global consciousness. Over to you, Dr. Basu.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, James. So we'll be talking about Overmind, or the field of global cognition. That's another name shown in the use for the Overmind, the field of global cognition. So we have, all of us as individuals, we have our own cognitive fields. We have our mind and we have a field of cognition, which because of our individuality is limited. But what can happen if one can link with the global cognitive field, which contains all thoughts, which contains the multiplicity of all of the ideas and all the, what you call, not only the ideas, the emotions, the impulses, all movements that are there in the manifestation. Everything is contained in that cognitive, or in the cosmic consciousness, or in a global consciousness. How we can get linked with it, and we can get linked with it at its origin, because we are always linked with the cosmic consciousness in some way or the other. It's not that we are not linked, because we are linked with the cosmic consciousness, even though we are not aware of it. Even though we are not aware of it, but the cosmic consciousness influences us, and the part of the cosmic consciousness comes to us through our dreams, through our symbols, through our cultural icons, all these things that have been described by Jung in the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious of Jung is one part of the cosmic consciousness, one small part of the cosmic consciousness, but the cosmic consciousness is a vast area. But we are connected usually with the cosmic consciousness in ignorance. It's not only that we ourselves are ignorant, but that is also true, that we are also in ignorance ourselves. We have to grow towards knowledge. But also the cosmic consciousness also has a great part that exists in the matrix of ignorance. the matrix of cosmic ignorance. And in that, we are connected with the cosmic consciousness in that from that matrix of cosmic ignorance. So that is one thing. But we want to be connected with the cosmic consciousness that is origin, not at the poise of what you call ignorance, but at the poise where it is primarily set up, where there is unity, where there is total consciousness, total knowledge, and there we want to get connected with. So that is a different thing. That is what Sri Aurobindo calls the global cognitive field. So the global cognition is that part of the cosmic consciousness, a very high part of the cosmic consciousness, which Sri Aurobindo also calls the superconscient cosmic mind, the superconscient cosmic mind. So it's part of the cosmic consciousness that is above the strata of ignorance, is there at the strata of knowledge. So it's difficult to conceptualize. It's difficult to conceptualize, but you can see it in another way, that it is a plane from where multiplicity has started to occur. Multiplicity has started to occur. So multiplicity was not there when in the absolute. In the absolute there is nothing. There is only oneness. In the absolute there is oneness. It is total oneness. There is nothing there except the one, that we have always been told by our great seers, by our great mystics, that there is absolute. There is an absolute in terms of consciousness, where there is only the one exists and nothing else. And then Sri Aurobindo talks about the supermind, where the one is programmed to become the many. The supermind is a sort of place where a programming occurs, a software programming occurs, where the one will be converted into many. The one will be converted into many. It is the programming that is taking place there. But the many actually starts manifesting at the level of the overmind. The many actually starts manifesting at the level of overmind. So what was the absolute unity? What was absolute unity? Because the absolute unity was when there were no words to describe it, but that absolute state, when words could be found to describe it, it was described as Sat Chit Ananda, that existence, consciousness, bliss, which of course Sri Aurobindo modified as existence, consciousness, force, bliss, or Sat Chit Shakti Ananda. But these three are not additive terms. They are not Sat plus Chit plus Ananda. They are the same thing. It's the same thing. It's the one in three poises. From at one poise, it is the existential aspect of the manifestation. Another poise, it is the pragmatic aspect of the manifestation. And about another poise, it is the value aspect of the manifestation. But they are the same thing, same, absolutely they are the same. In the supermind, this reality, which is also, it can be called a triune reality, a triune oneness, a oneness that is triune in nature, because it is three nature. This is now programmed so that it can become multiple. It can become multiple. So it is programmed there. But the programming is only there in the supermind. But as a result of this programming, the multiplicity will start to appear. But the multiplicity starts to appear at the level which is called, Sri Aurobindo calls, the level of the global cognition, the level of the overmind. There it starts to appear. So before that, it has been programmed, but it has not started to appear. It has started to appear there when everything is going to be manifest. Then it has started to appear. So this is one important distinction that you have to make between the plane where the programming has been made and the plane where the programming is going to be executed. The plane of the overmind, where the programming is going to be executed. So that is the global field of the global cognition, and it is a very high field. And Sri Aurobindo gets linked with this field, and not only gets linked with this field, he actually in 1926, 24th November, we know that his sadhana reached a peak point where this overmind consciousness also he made it descend to the earth as a step towards the supramental, as a step towards the making the truth dynamic in the earth consciousness. So that was one great thing that he did, and this is one can say that was the starting point of all the ashram and all the things that started here. When Sri Aurobindo was sure that now the foothold has been made, a consolidation has been made, and the work can go on. So it was a very important day, and I told you before that all these superior levels of consciousness, they also come down. So as we go up, we can go up towards them, ascend towards them, but they also come down. And it is that coming down is very important. Otherwise, only our ascending upwards will not have any value or will not be completed until what we want to bring down, that also comes down itself. So that is the meeting point at one place where they meet. And in consciousness, in a very high consciousness, they will meet. And Sri Aurobindo was able to bring down with his sadhana. He was being able to, actually, if he had not done that, would it not have come? Might be after many, many years, might be after thousands of years. Sri Aurobindo accelerated the process. Sri Aurobindo accelerated the process so that the world is not destroyed before all possibilities, before all possibilities are worked out. So before the world is not destroyed, because we can also have a propensity to destroy ourselves, and the creation can be made to vanish with our with all the arsenal that we have today. So that was one great thing which Sri Aurobindo has done for humanity. He has made it sure that the reality will be manifest here, and we will not be able to destroy it by our means. So that was the first step that Sri Aurobindo did, was to bring down the overmind consciousness. And we are now trying to understand that global cognition, the characteristics of that global cognition. We are now trying to understand it. In doing this, I will be sharing you slides, but these slides are slides not new that I have made. Like these are slides that I had used for the Lagrange Center a few months back. I think Radhe is here from the Lagrange Center, and some of you who have attended that program might be conversant with these slides. But then it is a very difficult subject, and we can always go over again and again, because it is something that we have to go over many times to understand it. It is not so easy to understand it. It will take a long time to understand what is actually the field of global cognition. It will take a long time. So we are just trying to peek through the window to see what is there. Understanding is a very difficult thing, which you have to do with your personal sadhana. You have to understand it. So we'll go back to the slides that I have used before, and so this is what we were discussing. That the higher mind, which we had come to this overmind, the global cognition, but before that, you have to ascend the staircase that we have been following in this workshop. We have been following this staircase that we know that beyond our cognitive field is the field of the higher mind, which we had talked about 2 days back. The mind of mass ideation, not at the level of the mind where we are operating, at the level of a consciousness which is just above our cognitive consciousness, the mind of mass ideation, where we have a sea-like downpour of spontaneous and automatic knowledge in multidimensional mode, holding contradictory and complementary ideas in a single view. Then now, when you hold contradictory and complementary ideas together, you get over exclusivism in thinking. You get over dogmatic thinking of all types. You become open to the vastness of actual knowledge, the true knowledge. You become yourself vast. So this higher mind leads you to a plane where there is an infinite expansion of your cognitive consciousness, and so that it can hold all types of ideas, whether contradictory or complementary. And it will be, you feel that there will be a downpour of knowledge, a downpour as if like an ocean is coming down. The point is this, that we had discussed that day, that at the level of higher mind, if you want to incorporate a new idea, you need not deconstruct the opposite idea. You see, in our ordinary mind, in our ordinary thinking, if you want to bring an opposite idea of what we are thinking, we have to deconstruct the previous idea to construct the new idea. So if I am for capitalism throughout my life, and one day I think that no, I will go for socialism, then I have to deconstruct my idea of capitalism to bring in the idea of socialism. But in the higher mind, all you you need not deconstruct anything. So all things add up one after another. You add up things one after another, but that adding up makes the things vaster, vaster, and vaster, and might be at one point it will be out of your control. Then you have to go to the next stage, the stage of Illumined mind, where you can catch the body of truth without the necessity of words. Without the necessity of words, you can catch the body of truth. So it's like it's a seer vision. It's like a seer vision. It's the Illumined mind is the mind of the mystics. The mystic doesn't need to communicate what he has received through words. He doesn't need that. He can communicate it directly. Now, this is something which you know that sometimes in life it happens to us that something is just, we have a revelation of something we just understand without any words, that there is something there which has a meaning, which has a purpose, which has a depth. Suddenly standing in front of the samadhi, you have a feeling inside that there is something here. I am standing in front of something which need not need words to describe, but it is fulfilling. So we have got glimpses of that Illumined mind, but then you can know how to live in it. And to live in it, then you will be living what Sri Aurobindo says, a revelatory ideograph, ideas that are revealed in a new way, in a way where you need not have words to describe them. Words are not necessary. And above Illumined mind is a mind of intuition, where truth lives like a spark. That's of the true intuition, the spiritual intuition, not the intuition that we think psychologists think that happens because that psychologists think that it happens because the logical mind performs the task without the aid of reason, but performs it very quickly, half consciously or subconsciously by some unknown method. But they don't know what is the method. But still, Sri Aurobindo doesn't reject that is intuition at the level of the ordinary mind. But Sri Aurobindo is concerned with intuition at the very high level, intuition that comes from a very high level, where truth lives like a spark. And when that type of intuition comes, it comes with an authenticity. It comes that it is true. You can understand because it is veridical in nature. You don't have any doubt. You see, there is no scope of any doubt. It comes with such a nature that there is no doubt about it. So, and then yesterday we talked about it, the truth touch, discrimination, inspiration, revelation, the 4 types of intuition. We talked about it yesterday. And beyond the intuition is the field of global cognition, which we'll be talking about today, the field of global cognition. Now, as I said, the Overmind, the field of global cognition, is the origin of multiplicity. It is the origin of multiplicity. So what does it mean? That the determinants behind cognition, volition, and emotion. You see, we have all these 3 things in us. We have cognition, our ideas and thoughts, we have our emotions, and we have our willpower with which you are living this life. You see, as Sri Aurobindo always said, that the present life is governed by reason along with intelligent will. So will is also called volition. People who are not used to psychological terms, so that willpower leads to that volition. So that all these things that are behind these ideas, emotions, and our willed activities, all these things are present as independent idea forces in the Overmind, as globally effective independent idea forces. It's not an idea force that is personally belonging to me or you. It is an idea force that is active at a global level. So it is acting globally. So that is an idea force that is acting at a global level, that it is acting. So these idea forces from where they have come. So these are the idea forces. Now from the idea forces, many ideas will emerge, or many types of emotional activities will emerge. Many types of willed activities will emerge. From one idea force, many things can emerge. You see that idea force is something which is a totipotent idea force. It is something which has got a lot of potentiality. Each idea force has got a lot of potentiality. It's not a single idea. Like I have a single idea that I'm thinking about one thing at a time, with one idea at a time. It's not like that. Not also like that. It is just multiple ideas with which I am doing multitasking. It's not also that. We should not confuse it with multitasking when you are dealing with many things and actually with many ideas. A manic patient of bipolar disorder also thinks with many ideas, but then gets confused because he can't handle all those ideas. But this is something different. An idea force is something which Shiomindo describes as an idea force is something which will give rise to many different types of ideas. So there's an idea force, we'll come to it. When I give an example, then you will understand. So there is an idea force that is wanting to set up, governments, and then that idea force wanting to set up a government can be translated into many ideas. So there can be a monarchical government, there can be an autocratic government, there can be a democratic government, there can be a socialist government, there can be a communist government, there can be a welfare state. You see, the idea force was there that governments have to be set up. Governments have to be set up. That's one, and global idea, independent idea force, which is behind the administration of countries by governments. Now that idea force that is wanting to set up governments can manifest in many different types of ideas, which need not be all which we call in harmony with each other. They might be in conflict with each other, but they will rise to different types of government. So at our level, they are in disharmony, they are in conflict. So communism is in conflict with capitalism and all that. But at that level, when the idea force wanted that the governments have to be set up, that it is one thing. That it is just that idea that the governments have to be set up. Now there can be many types of governments, many types of ideas that can manifest from that idea force. So the idea force is something which is globally active. It is something acting globally. It is not acting in my individual mind. It is not acting in my individual mind like that. It is something which is globally active. So don't confuse this idea force with our individual way of thinking. It's not that. It's an idea force at a very high level from which many ideas come, and those ideas and the ramifications of those ideas are things with which we can get concerned with or which we can get involved with. So, but this is something which is happening at a global level. And because it is releasing many ideas, and we, according to our temperaments, our education, our personalities, our swadharma, we take up one idea or the other. But at that level, at the level of global cognition, it is not concerned with the multiplication of or the diversity of the same idea force. It is concerned with only the essence of that, that governments will be formed. It's like that. So this is a determinant behind this. It is a determinant behind all our activities, and these determinants are present as independent idea forces. And from where these idea forces have come, they have been derived from pre-programmed creative essences. So I assume there was a programming taking place in the supermind. There is a programming taking place, and from that, so that something has been pre-programmed there, and it is a creative essence. That a creative essence has been programmed there in the supermind. From there, these idea forces have come. Again, the idea forces have come from very high above, from a programming that is taking place. That's why I said it is already pre-programmed in the supermind. And at that place, Shiomindo uses the word real ideas. Real ideas means ideas that one day will become reality. Ideas that will one day become reality. And ideas that are totipotent. They have absolute potency and they have multiple potency. So these idea forces are derived from there. So they have not started there from the overmind de novo like that. From a blank slate, they have not started. They have been issued from the creative essence which are there in the supermind, and in the supermind they have been programmed from the Satchidananda, which is there as a supreme reality. So everything is preceded by something else, something which is still higher to that. Yet, but there is something in the overmind which is very interesting. You see, the multiplicity starts there, but the multiplicity is there aware of the unity or the matrix of unity which is existing. It is aware of the background unity. So they know that each idea force knows that it is independent, at the same time it is not exclusive. It has to admit all other potentials. It is linked with all other potentials. So everything is linked with everything. Everything is linked with every other thing. So there is an unity there. There is an implicit and underlying unity behind all the potentials, behind all the idea forces in the overmind. So the overmind is a zone of multiplicity which is aware of the unity. It's not the zone of multiplicity which has lost its contact with the unity. The multiplicity which has lost its contact with unity is our world, the world where we are here, the world where we have forgotten that we are all united, and that's why we are having conflicts everywhere at all levels. We are having conflicts at the level of physical existence, at the level of our emotions, at the level of our mind, at the level of our ideas, at the level of religions, at the level of philosophies, at the whatnot. Everywhere you have conflicts, conflicts, and conflicts, because we have forgotten the word that we were united in the beginning. In fact, the word conflict has come because we have lost contact with unity. If we had not lost contact with unity, the word conflict would not have come. So this conflict, very nature of conflict, shows that at every sphere of activity, every sphere of consciousness, that we have lost all contact with the unity principle behind. But in the overmind, the unity principle is there. In the overmind, the unity principle is there. So even there are multiple idea forces, all these idea forces know that they are all linked with each other. They are all linked with each other. So that is very interesting. Again, we have to come back to it, but it's a difficult thing, but we have to come back to this again. And as a global cognitive field, it is a superconscient cosmic consciousness. I told you that it is, what is the difference between cosmic consciousness and overmind? Overmind is the cosmic consciousness at a very high level, the cosmic consciousness in the poise of truth, and we are Vedas, all our symbols, all our consciousness from where they come, but it is the cosmic consciousness is where the cosmic consciousness is what we call ignorant. There, in our plane, the cosmic consciousness is ignorant, where we are connected with the cosmic consciousness. But the superconscient cosmic consciousness, the very high level, the peak of the cosmic consciousness, there you find the overmind. And it is a basis of cosmic consciousness. You see, it has the basis. Because of the overmind, the cosmic consciousness has formed. And it represents an ordinary cosmic mind is perceived in the poise of ignorance. So, and then we have to come to this field of global cognition through the spiritual mind rings, through the higher mind, through the Euromine mind and intuition. In a way, I would say overmind is also the father of ignorance, because overmind allows all things to manifest, the multiplicity to manifest, and therefore it allows the ignorance to manifest also. If it allows everything to manifest, the multiplicity to manifest, it is also allowing the ignorance to manifest. It is also allowing falsehood to manifest. If it is allowing truth to manifest, it is allowing every other thing to manifest also. So in other way, overmind is the father of all things that have been manifested. Now you see, this is an example that idea forces at different levels. For example, we are taking the example of religion. At the level of mind, you have all religions are conflicting with each other. At the level of mind, at our level, all religions are actually having competitions with each other. So at the level of overmind, it's not like that. All religions are developments of one eternal religion, the perennial religion. Somewhat when Huxley coined the term perennial philosophy of perennial philosophy, he was coming near to the concept of eternal religion which is there. So all religions are developments of one eternal religion. At the level of supermind, the essence of all religion is present as a creative idea. Just in a white canvas, you just have a stroke. You have just a stroke in a white canvas. In a white canvas of consciousness, there is just a stroke, an essence. And that essence becomes at the level of overmind, one eternal religion. So there's an essence, the spiritual essence is there in the supermind. So in the supermind, the programming has been made a spiritual essence that will be one thing that has to manifest. And the spiritual essence has been created as an idea, as a real idea. Spiritual essence has been created as a real idea. Now, how will spirituality be understood by people? It has to be understood by religions, but all religions will be carrying the same origin of that spirituality, that essence of spirituality which was there in the supermind. But when they come to the mind, the religions have become all different because they have been following different trajectories, different pathways, they have been following different norms, they have become different. But you see, if you can go from below to up, when you see that gradually you are moving to unity and higher unities. So this is how, if we accept the level of supermind, then all our conflict between different religions, they become so superfluous. Because at the end, in the supermind is that essence, that creative essence, the spiritual essence, from where that idea that religions can occur came to the level of overmind. That this spiritual essence can be developed into religions. And then when we actually develop religions, they have become different things at the level of the mind, different forms of activity, different conflicting ideologies at the level of the mind. So this was one example. This is one example that all things follow the same example. It is not only religions, but anything you take, whether it's philosophy, whether it is your field, any other field you take. So we'll give you an example. I will just quote Sri Aurobindo, what Sri Aurobindo has said, that all philosophies will be valid. I will just read it slowly. These are what Sri Aurobindo has said to make it, because his words contain that power. Likewise, all philosophies would be valid, each in his own field. All philosophies would be valid in its own field as a statement of its own universe view from its own angle. So everybody is constructing a philosophy from his world view. Everybody has a different world view. If Confucius has one world view, then Buddha has another world view. So people are all, Socrates has one world view, and Radhakrishnan might have another world view. So all philosophies are valid. Each one has valid in their respective world views. All political theories, also all political theories with their practice, would be the legitimate working out of an idea force with its right to application and practical development. So it's like that all political theories, they would also be valid in their own way. They would be a working out of an idea force with its right to application and practical development. In our separative consciousness, imperfectly visited by glimpses of Catholicity and universality, these things exist as opposites. You see, we have imperfect glimpses of Catholicity and universality. Why do we have these imperfect glimpses, or how do we have these glimpses that Catholicity and universality are there? In spite of our conflicts, we are always in the world, we are striving to be one. We are always striving to be united. We are striving for global unity. We have come here today in this workshop. Even a few of us have come here, some 20 people, but still we want to pursue unity. Why? Because intuition tells us that there is something more. Beyond these divisions, beyond these conflicts, there is also a unity. Intuition peeps into us. It gives us glimpses. If it was not so, we would not have ventured to have our quest towards unity. Our quest towards unity occurs because our venturing occurs because intuition comes and tells us, oh, yes, there is something else, there is something else. So that's why, but intuition comes in flashes. That's why Sri Aurobindo says, imperfectly visited by glimpses of Catholicity and universality. And overmental intelligence would refuse to entertain this concept of this deep exclusiveness for a moment. In the overmind, intelligence will not give importance to exclusiveness or uniqueness of each idea different from other ideas. It would allow all to live necessary to the whole, or put each in its place in the whole. So it would allow everything to have a right place in the whole. In the hierarchy, everybody has to find his own place. But in the hierarchy, when you find your own place, you see that you are not a standalone phenomenon. There are other things also that are standing there in that hierarchy. And the overmental intelligence knows that they are connected together. Even outwardly, it might seem that they are also different. So there it is known that they are connected with each other. Now, ordinary cosmic mind in ignorance holds positive and negative potentialities which enter the inner being. That day, in the first day of the session, I talked about the inner being, which is standing behind the outer being. You see, that's why we have to start with that structure of the being. Unless we understand the structure of the being, we can't understand the other things that follow. And in the structure of the being, if you remember that structure, the diagram that I had shown you, that the inner being is connected with the cosmic consciousness. And the cosmic consciousness has great, giant creative waves, but it has also got giant negative waves, hostile waves. And you see, anything can enter you. Anything can enter you. If creative things enter, Sri Aurobindo says, if creative things enter from the cosmic consciousness, they enter the inner being, and from there they percolate little by little into the outer being through the pathways between the inner being and outer being, which I called as the chakras. It is there, little bit trickles, and that little bit is responsible for our great creative things. But hostile forces can also enter. Hostile forces can also enter into from the cosmic consciousness into your inner being, and it can do two things. It can go forward, catch hold of your ego. It can catch hold of your ego, and it can make a person who has started a very good sadhana to be a good sadhu. It can make it diabolical. You see, that's why many people who start as great sadhus or saints, afterwards they turn out to be the great opposites of what they started with, because these negative forces, hostile forces enter into them, and they're going to stop them because they have opened the gates to the cosmic consciousness. Or the hostile forces can enter into a person and cut off the soul from the rest of the being, and cut off the soul from the rest of the being. So opening into the cosmic consciousness in spirituality is risky. Remember, it is risky because you have to work on the ego. You have to be conscious of the psychic being behind. You have to be conscious of the Jivatma. You have to have the mother's grace. At every point, you have to have the mother's grace. Otherwise, you run the risk. You see, opening up to the cosmic consciousness is an activity that can come if you are pursuing spirituality in a very sincere way. But remember, everything is risky. And in spirituality, things are more risky than other endeavors in practical life. And so positive potencies can enhance creativity, negative potencies can cause harmony. The cosmic mind in ignorance is not immune to attacks of the magnified ego and the hostile forces. This is what I was describing. So it can get inside. The forces from the cosmic mind in ignorance can get inside, and they can catch hold of your ego. So the cosmic mind in ignorance holds the union collective unconscious. This is for whom, if you want to relate Jung's collective unconscious with the cosmic consciousness. But the overmind is the superconscious cosmic consciousness. It's not connected with the cosmic mind in ignorance. It's connected above, from where the cosmic mind or the cosmic consciousness originates. So it's full of knowledge. And in that knowledge, it knows that though the multiplicity is being forwarded, the multiplicity is linked with unity. Each thing is linked with every other thing. Each great idea force is linked with all other idea forces. So what is that in the global cognition? In the global cognition, what happens? This is again Sri Aurobindo's words. I use Sri Aurobindo's words often directly because it carries the power. Knowledge rushes from all sides. You see, in global cognition, knowledge rushes from all sides, and one can see objects from all points of view, and each thing from all points. Very interesting thing. You can see an object from all points of view, and each thing from all points. See, that's why Sri Aurobindo often used the word in Savitri, a very strange word he used, a giant point. You see, often he has used in Savitri, number of times this has come, a giant point. A point which is, how can a point be giant? Because this is a point which is linking the infinite with the finite. This is a point that the infinite can become real to the finite. Giant point is the point where the infinite can be real to the finite. That's why you will find the word giant point several times at several places in Savitri. So knowledge rushes from all sides, and one can see objects from all points of view, and each thing from all points. Thus, the cosmic consciousness is represented not merely in its static aspect, but also in its dynamic reality. It is related in a dynamic way. It is something dynamic. It is making things move. It is actually responsible for making the manifestation. So therefore, it is the expression of something above. So it was something above, very high above, wanted that the manifestation should take place. If it was satisfied, if the absolute was satisfied with itself, because there was no movement in the absolute, supreme absolute, there is no movement, and it was satisfied with itself, it would not have needed any manifestation. But there was something there that wanted to manifest, and because there was something above wanted to manifest, so something is now going to happen, and that the first thing that is going to happen is the global cognition has to come. Thought, for the most part, again coming back to this quotation, thought for the most part no longer seems to originate individually from the body or the person, but manifests from above. Thought is not originating in me. Thought is not, I am not the originator of thoughts. Thought is coming to me, but it is manifesting from above or comes as cosmic mind waves. I'm open to cosmic mind waves. All inner individual sight or intelligence is now a revolutionary illumination of what is seen or comprehended. You see, all inner light that comes, all inner illumination that comes, all inner revelation that comes, all inner sight, individual, what you call, there is clearing of all our doubts that comes. That is something which comes from above. Huh? It is something that is revealed to us, and the source of revelation is not in our separate self. It is we are not revealing to ourselves the truth. Something is being revealed to us. Something that is coming down from us from universal knowledge. Something that is coming down to us to universal knowledge. If you find difficulty in understanding this, I will just say, I just tell you, just look at a small baby. He starts talking one by one, papa, mama, and then you teach him something, that this is a ball, this is an apple, this is a balloon. After some time, the child, from the baby to the child, when the baby has become a child, is becoming a child, at one point of time, the child starts talking everything as if he or she is so wise. Do we teach the child one by one, word by word? How does the child can speak everything? We are surprised to see that we started teaching that child that, look, this is the ball, this is your auntie, this is your aunt, this is your bua, and all that. And suddenly one day we find that he understands everything, he or she, and can speak out, and babbling is going on babbling. Now what happens is that the child gets connected with the universal consciousness where all words are kept, and from there all the words come tumbling down. For that, of course, you have to do some work. The adults have to do some work. What work we have to do? We have to continuously talk with the child. You have to continuously talk with the baby. If you do not talk with the baby, then this connection will not be made between the child's mind and that place in consciousness where all the words are kept, where which they come tumbling down, they will come inside. You see, that's why even children whose both parents are working and the child is left at the mercy of the housekeepers or what you call the ayahs or something, these children nowadays, they start talking a bit late. You see, if you find that children are starting to talk late, you know that both the parents are working parents and the child has been left at the mercy of governesses who are more interested in their mobile phones than talking to the child. So if a child can have that linkage, if a child get all the language that comes out in a baby becomes because of the link opens, then you can understand. If you project it at a very high level, from your thought to the universal consciousness of the global cognition, from where all ideas can come and they can enter into you. So if in a child that can happen, actually it can happen in you also. And to understand, you project yourself. You project from your consciousness of when you were a child to that place now, where you are an adult and you are open to something which is very high above and which contains all thoughts, all ideas, and from where everything can come, everything can guide you, everything can illumine you. Then you can have a glimpse of what is global cognition. So feelings, emotions, sensations are felt as waves from the same cosmic immensity, breaking upon the subtle and the gross body, and responded to in kind by the individual center of universality. So the individual is now and not a stand-alone individual. The individual is no longer an isolated individual, isolated from everywhere, just uniquely existing for himself. The individual is actually an individual center of universality. The individual is not a stand-alone phenomenon. It's not a stand-alone phenomenon. He or she is only an individual center of a vast universality. The body is only a small support. You can say, well, body is the body also not unique to me? The body is only a small support, a point of relation for the action of a vast cosmic instrumentation. The body is only a small support. The body is only a small support that is holding your consciousness, that is holding your individuality. My individuality, if the body was not there, I would not have been able to hold my individual uniqueness. Because you see, if I am made only of our emotions, I will be free floating. All emotions are floating in the air. If I am made of thoughts, all thoughts are floating in the air. That is not something to have an individual compactness. You need to have something. And the body provides that, what you call, that basis of individual compactness. In that body itself, all our ideas and emotions have to be held. Otherwise, Otherwise, we'll get lost. If only we are made up of our emotions and our ideas, we would not have been consolidated as an individual. Come on, that's practical. That's true. So to have a consolidation of as an individual, you need the support of the body, a point of relation. But that is, you have to see that it is not because it is that body is giving you the guarantee that you are unique by yourself and you are separate from everyone else in the world. Not like that. Sri Aurobindo says that the body has to be viewed as just a point of relation so that the cosmic instrumentation is effective. So it is an action of a vast cosmic instrumentation has to take place, and the body is just supporting the whole phenomena. So even though you are an individual, you are an individual in the center of an universality. You are a wave in an ocean. You are just a wave in an ocean, and each wave is connected with other waves. Each wave is emerging from the ocean. Each wave is not a separate, isolated, standalone phenomenon. So in the global cognition, you can realize this. It is the global cognitive field only you can realize this. It is a boundless largeness. Sri Aurobindo calls that it is a boundless largeness, not only the separate ego, but the sense of individuality. Even of a subordinated individuality may entirely disappear. So it is a boundless largeness. This what he has used, it is a boundless largeness where all individuality may disappear. The cosmic delight, the play of the cosmic forces are all left. All individuality has disappeared, and it is only the delight and the play of cosmic forces that are left. And it is not with a sense of personality, but as a field of manifestation and this sense of delight. So what is felt, if the delight at the center of the force is felt in what was the personal life, mind or body, it is not with a sense of personality. You are feeling it yourself. You are feeling the delight, you are feeling the force, but you are not feeling it with a sense that you are one individual person, but you are feeling it as a field of manifestation. And this sense of delight is no longer confined to the person, but can be felt at all points in an unlimited consciousness of unity, which pervades everywhere. Very difficult to understand. If you are if you are taking down or what do you call preserving the slides, you should go over this again and again. That in that boundless largeness, as an individual, you are not strictly an individual. You are a point of universality, and whatever you are receiving in that poise of universality. So though you are an individual, you are receiving everything in a poise of an universality. So it's difficult to understand. So you have to go over this number of times. Now, the origin of gods, which is very important. In Supermind, the one and many have an absolute identity. In Supermind, one and many have an absolute identity. One and many are the same. It is their programming is being made where the one will become the many, but they are identified with each other. In Overmind, they have become separate, but they're in harmony with each other. You see, one and many are becoming separate, but in harmony with each other, with uniqueness, with the uniqueness even in the uniqueness that is there in each multiplicity is also linked with all other uniquenesses. So it is something where the harmony is prevailing. Now, this unity is in the Overmind is an immanent Godhead controlling the patent reality of the many. Understand what is the origin of the gods in the true spiritual tradition. What is the origin of the gods? I say that we are talking about idea forces. So all multiple idea forces. Each idea force is behind something which will be constructed in different ways. As I told you, there was the idea force behind the government. There is an idea force behind justice. There is an idea force behind religion. All these things, idea forces are there. Each idea force is a god. Each idea force. So each integer of the many. Each idea force or each integer of the many each idea force is a spiritual archetype. I'm not talking about Jungian archetype. I'm talking about spiritual archetype. I am using the word archetype which you use, but not in the way you use. I am using the word spiritual archetype, which is presiding over a harmonic formation. It is each integer of the many is a spiritual archetype or an idea force presiding over something which will be a multiple phenomena. A harmonic formation. So each idea force or each integer can be a god. The multiple gods of the manifestation are derivatives of the one immanent unitary Godhead. You see, there are many idea forces, but all idea forces are emerging from one unitary matrix. That one unitary matrix is the unitary Godhead, the one immanent unitary Godhead, the one immanent unitary Godhead, that is the unitary matrix from where all idea forces are emerging, and each idea force which is going to construct so many things in the world. Each idea force is like a God which is related to the supreme Godhead, to the unitary Godhead, which is the matrix of everything. So each God of the many are related to each other. Each idea force is related with each other, but can collaborate or be in conflict with each other, like siblings do in a family. So all the idea forces that are being issued from the overmind, they are all not in what you call happy relation with each other, because there are conflicting idea forces. There are conflicting idea forces. Of course, there are conflicting idea forces. The idea force behind the deprivation and the idea force behind plenitude will be different. There will be a contradiction between these two idea forces. The idea force behind equality and the idea force behind inequality, which is required for the diversification of the manifestation, will also, of course, will be different. Because to have a diversified manifestation, you cannot have equality. You have to have inequality, and that is again the idea force behind equality. So equality is one thing, and inequality, which is allowing diversity, not inequality in the terms I'm talking about, just strictly in terms of economics or something like that. You take in a diversified consciousness perspective, inequality, because inequality which was not there, you would not have diversified variety or a variegated variety of manifestation. So the idea force behind that inequality that caused variety has to be in conflict with the idea force that wants equality. So you see that if each idea force is a God, then these gods can be in conflict with each other, or they can be happily friends with each other. So that's just like sibs in a family. No? We have a friendships and we have a quarrels between sibs, but at the end the siblings know, brothers and sisters, at the end they become united, and they know that they have been issued from one the same parents, they have been issued. So it's like that. When you find the conflicts between the gods, don't get abused, and or I don't say that the gods are all nonsense, but that the gods are all fanciful phenomena. It is not like that. Gods actually have been conceptualized in a very great way. Each god is something which is presiding over some formation, a harmonic formation, and each god is an idea force. Each god is a spiritual archetype, and all these gods are linked with the Godhead, which is unitary in nature, which is the one Godhead. So this is how the overmind is the origin of the great gods. So you see, the idea forces are the great gods. Huh? The idea forces are great idea forces, which are behind all the smaller ideas in the world. There are the big idea forces. So this is actually the domain of the very great gods. If you read Sri Aurobindo, then you can understand the difference between the great gods and the when it comes down. Actually, if you talk afterwards about descent of consciousness, then we can see that when the gods, when they come down, how they break down, they become formacious or lesser gods, and then when they break down further and further, then the personality of the god breaks down and then becomes something else, something different. So something that was God can become exactly the opposite of the God, down, 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 below in the cosmic, in the manifestation. So that is very interesting thing, but that will get confused if we deal with it today. We have to deal with it afterwards. And this overmind. You see, supermind is between the unmanifest and the manifest. I told you the supermind is the programming, is the place where the programming is taking place, but the unmanifest will become manifest. But the supermind cannot directly act on the multiplicity. Once it has manifested, the supermind is too powerful. It is too above. It is too, what you call, too great. If it wants to act directly on the manifestation, it will not be able to act. That's why between the supermind and the multiplicity, the overmind was necessary. And that's why Sri Aurobindo says that the overmind is a protective devil. A protection, what protection? Protection against the, what you call, the efflorescence of the supermind, the great power of the supermind that cannot be borne by ordinary humanity. Ordinary humanity cannot, or the ordinary mind, the ordinary cognitive matrix cannot bear it. So between the infidelity of the supermind and the multiplicity, you have to have the overmind, which is a delegate through which the supermind can indirectly influence the ignorance. You see, supermind cannot directly influence the ignorance or the inconscience. It will not be able to hold it. So it has to indirectly influence it through the agency of the overmind. And so you see that overmind is acting as a protection. It is acting as a protection, as a protective double, a skin up. So it's like a lead. It's like a lead. It has been described also. I show the fine similarity with what has been described in Upanishad as a lead covering something. So it is a lead covering the inconscious, and above it is the supermind, the superconscious. So these are again metaphysical things. We'll not go over it in details, but limitations of overmind is still the overmind is limited. You have to go to the supermind for the complete gnosis because it cannot transform the inconscious. In fact, it is the father of ignorance because of the overmind. Because of the overmind, ignorance exists because it has allowed the multiplicity, and multiplicity means all opposite things will also be there. So if it has allowed the light, it has allowed the darkness. If it has allowed the knowledge, it has allowed the ignorance, because it has allowed the multiplicity to flourish, and therefore it is the father of ignorance also. And it cannot dynamize the transcendence. So it cannot, the transcendence which is beyond the cosmic consciousness, that cannot be dynamized by the overmind so that it can become active in life. Now, this is the cosmic vision in the one example of the overmental vision. You see, but still how difficult it is for us to understand. The cosmic vision in the Gita, many of you are acquainted with that the magnificent vision of the world spirit who upholds the creation. The Gita in Sri Krishna was shown, Sri Krishna was showing this to Arjuna. Arjuna was given this revelation, a vision of the world spirit. So, which upholds the creation. And yet it was time to destroy. Something that was upholding the creation was simultaneously the destroyer. Something which was upholding was also the destroyer. The creation was being upheld by the world spirit, and the world spirit simultaneously was tied the destroyer. So, and then Sri Aurobindo says, it is not a direct overmind experience, but a mighty cosmic vision with influences from the overmind. You see, it was difficult for us to understand. How will you understand? You can differentiate what is overmind and what is a great experience with an influence from the overmind. But a human instrument to have the direct and sustained overmind experience is difficult, because only those who have got fully into the cosmic consciousness can do it. One must first go fully to the experience of the higher mind and illumined mind and intuition before it can be done. So that was not known. You see that the higher mind, illumined mind, intuition, how to develop them, that was not known. At the point when the synthesis of Gita was made, all these things, this hierarchy, these spiritual hierarchies were not known. So it is not possible at that time the full overmind experience or one could have. But one could have influences from the overmind. And then the Vasudeva experience in the jail, the Vasudeva experience which Sri Aurobindo had in Alipur jail, mother was asked whether it was an overmind experience because he was seeing everywhere Vasudeva. He was seeing Krishna everywhere, in the prisoners, in the courtroom, in the judges, in the people who had captured them and the people who had been prisoners. Everywhere he was seeing Vasudeva. And mother was asked whether it was an overmental experience, and mother said no, it was something more higher. It was a supramental experience. And Sri Aurobindo had not coined the term supermind at that time, so he used the word Vasudeva. Now for us it is difficult to understand that why Vasudeva experience was considered to be supramental by the mother, and why this vision of the Gita has been explained as an overmind experience, not a full overmind experience, but a cosmic experience, a great cosmic experience with influences from the overmind. But anyway, we have to take in the way as it has been described by Sri Aurobindo, who has formulated these things and who actually knows all these levels, because he has traversed all these levels. I told you that this from the beginning, that in our Indian spiritual tradition, we had always jumped from the present cosmic status, from the present cognitive status to the great void, but we had not ventured into something else. And Sri Aurobindo ventures into something else, another pathway, which is the evolution of the cosmic consciousness. The cognitive consciousness itself is evolving. The cognitive consciousness itself is evolving, and it is evolving, and it is to this ladder of higher mind, illumined mind, and intuition. It is evolving towards the overmind and towards the supermind. So that was not known before. That is why that complete supramental experience was not expected. This is the last slide for you who are interested in poetry. That this is overhead poetry of Sri Aurobindo said. Just a little bit I will tell. Some of you here might be 2 or 3 who are interested in poetry. Overmind means above the our cognition, above our cognitive status, the higher levels of the mind, the higher mind, Illumined mind, intuition, overmind, supermind, they also have their influences on us, and that influence you can see that in poetry also, that influences are visible. Sri Aurobindo was a great poet. He always considered poetry to be a vehicle toward expressing the greater consciousness. And you see the examples that Sri Aurobindo has given. We have given you at different levels of the mind, just to give you an inkling that it is such a vast, beautiful subject. Just that we are peeping from a window. That peeping from a window also can give you great things. For that, I just included this slide at the end. So the mantra is the word of power and light. The mantra is the overmind influence. The mantra comes from the mantra comes to from a very high plane, from an intuitive plane. Is a word of power and light. Word of power and light. Mantra is not an ordinary combination of words. A mantra is a word which contains power and light together, and that comes from the intuitive plane. For the higher mind, Sri Aurobindo's own, last 3 years given Sri Aurobindo's own poems, Sri Aurobindo has himself marked that which line came from which plane. And this line that he wrote in the sonnet, that I have drunk the infinite like a giant swine. I have drunk the infinite like a giant swine. That this he has said that it came from the higher mind. And from the Illumined mind, where you have the vision of the truth without expressing it in words, you have that black fire and gold fire stoked towards one place. The black fire and the gold fire, that two types of fire which is saying and giving indications of two types of things. The golden fire is the fire that will lead you to the supramental, and the black fire that is contradicting that fire. And because everywhere you have contradictions. And in overmind level, this is a passage which is said that it came from the overmind consciousness or influenced by the overmind consciousness in the uncertain glow of human mind is west of unharmonic throbbing thoughts. Curve the epic mountain line, crowded with deep prophetic grots. So in the uncertain glow of human mind, where there is no harmony, and there you have to build up, or you have to curve something so that the higher influence can come, so that the greatest influence from the unitary consciousness can come there. So this is just to give you a glimpse. I think it is 5:04 now. James as for every time, we'll just stop for a few minutes and then come back. Is it okay? So there are questions that somebody asked me about this overmind, that I don't know whether you can use the word, use the words of the Sushupti and Turiya for illumination, for illumined mind and overmind. I don't know whether it can be used. Well, Sri Aurobindo doesn't use them, and Sri Aurobindo actually doesn't use the phraseology of the old system, because all of his systems start from the inner being, and all the it's very difficult to relate, because there are different realizations, of course, Sushupti, Turiya stage, and all the transcendental, or different ways of viewing reality. Yeah, and I don't know this classification if it matches with the usual terms that are used. So I have to check it, but I don't know whether you can use it. But that one can say that supracognitive planes, which you have to say, the supracognitive planes which he has pursued, that it is difficult for the supracognitive planes to be assessed, analyzed, or measured in the same way as you measure the ordinary cognitive planes. So they have also limitations. The EEG also is limited. Even in our epileptic patients, in many patients, the EEGs don't show. So everything has its limitation. So this is something supracognitive. You have to start from beyond your all of our usual cognitive measures. And this side where you are opening to risky to spirituality. Yes, you see that every in spirituality, every step that you take is risky. For example, I'm telling that Sri Aurobindo's all of Sri Aurobindo's real psychology starts from the inner being, and between the outer being and the inner being, when you traverse from the outer being to the inner being, there is an intermediate zone where one can slip and fall. So one is trying to progress and go to the inner being, and can one fall into the intermediate zone between the outer being and the inner being. And when you fall there, then you can be subject to many things, to illnesses, to delusions, hallucinations, and illusions, and many kinds of things you can face. And then you see that when you come to the inner being can go very fast than the outer being. And if it can go very faster than the outer being, great yogis can, what they have a great discordance between the outer being and the inner being. Because this is a question frequently asked, whether great yogis, whether they have illnesses or not. Actually, great yogis can also have great illnesses, because their inner being progresses very fast than the outer being, and there is a discordance, and in that discordance great illnesses can come. So that we have that Sri Ramakrishna or Raman Maharshi, they had cancer, big illnesses they had. It's not like that it is something, everything is easy. And then the greatest obstacle is in the cosmic consciousness, where you open up to the cosmic consciousness, you open up to very good things, but you open up also to great risky things. You open up to very good things, great creative energies which can illumine you, which can energize you, which can give you more energy and all that. But at the same time, you are open to the great hostile forces that are there in the cosmic ignorance. And once they enter into you, they can cause a havoc. They can cut off from the soul from the other parts of your system. And this is called possession. In Sri Aurobindo calls this possession. Using possession means, in our common parlance, possession means that a ghost has come and possessed you, like you see in pictures of children's books. It's not like that. In Sri Aurobindo's vision, the possession means that a hostile force or energy has come and is not allowing your soul or the psychic being to exert its influence on the rest of the being. So that is the possession. Or that hostile force can go forward and catch hold of your ego. Now, how to take care so that this doesn't happen? Then that's why that Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga is important. That in the integral yoga you have to move simultaneously along different points. So you have to, when you are opening up your opening up your inner being to the cosmic consciousness, simultaneously you have to work on your ego, so that you have to downgrade it and prepare it that it has to be replaced by something else. And then you have to go behind and you have to work on your psychic being. And not only that, the psychic being is projected by the Jivatma. You have to have an experience of that. Not only that, you have to go down to the inconscious and try to clean there. Though it is difficult, it will not be, you will not be able to do it properly until you have reached the last stage, going to the supermind. But then you have to start doing some cleaning work there. And then you have to have a glimpse of the superconscient realms. So all these things have to go simultaneously together. Then only you are going to say that you can be protected. Otherwise, protection is difficult. And of course, every time invoking the grace as, and because they have a right to intervene, as Sri Aurobindo said in a sonnet, to this world's inconscient power that was given the right to oppose the shining passage of my soul. The shining passage of my soul is obstructed by the inconscient powers, and they have been given the right to do so. So that is also something, and that's why the grace is needed at every point. Supramental consciousness is the consciousness of the supermind. Supramental consciousness is the consciousness of the supermind. All these things are, but again I will tell you, if it is difficult to understand this concept of the overmind, just place yourself in your poise as a child who suddenly gets linked up. And this is the psychology now has acknowledges this. Psychology acknowledges this fact that the children get linked up with the source where all words are kept, and this linkage, and because of this linkage, all the words come down, and suddenly children begin to talk. We don't teach them each thing one by one, word by word. We would have taken lifetimes to teach a child everything. You can see that your own children at home, remember when they are now grown up, when they were children, and suddenly they began to speak as if they were so overmature. And they were so overmature that they suddenly began to speak everything. They got connected with something, a source of words. Similarly, we can also get connected with something which is beyond us. There is something called Akashic records, which is there in the cosmic consciousness. The Akashic records are something which is known, and there you can get connected to a high source from where knowledge can come down. So if this can happen to a child, then we can also cultivate in our poise as an adult, we can cultivate that we can get linked up with the vast reservoir of knowledge from where everything can come down. And that reservoir is an universal reservoir where no division exists, as we have made in our common life with our limited mind. Can one move with faith alone that the divine will take care of everything? So that's why Shivavinda once said that I tell people to surrender, but the one thing that is that should not be surrendered, that surrender is made the first, that is the surrender in the common sense. So you cannot surrender the common sense and say the divine will take care of everything. This is something methodical discipline you have to follow. Yeah, of course you have to follow, but without faith. But then what is faith? When you are talking about faith, what is faith? Faith, if it is from the level of mind, it is difficult because the task of mind is to contradict, make alternatives. So the faith has to be the faith that is emanating from your soul. So the faith has come from deep inside you. So you have to cultivate your soul faith, and that cultivation is an active thing that you can do. You see, you're saying can move with faith alone, but to cultivate the soul faith, the faith of the soul, the faith in your psychic being, you have to do so much. You have to work on it. Otherwise, you will not be able to come up with the faith of the soul. If you think that at the level of the mind, we are always very happy to have faith on something which we feel secure, but that doesn't work for us because the mind also constructs the opposites. There is a reason why our prayers get unanswered, because I am praying today that I will not think odd things, but the next moment I doubt my own prayer and then the prayer gets cancelled. You see that faith at the level of the mind is difficult. Unless, of course, you have known, you have worked on your this willpower. You have linked it with the universal will. Unless you have done that, it is difficult. So building up faith alone is a sadhana that you have to do, and that you have to do yourself. That onus is on you. That democracy is there existing in the relation between the Supreme and us, that we have to do some work on ourselves. Anyway, this is a very difficult concept. We don't think that we'll be understanding it very easily. We have to go over it many times in many ways. And also that I will please request you not to confuse what Sri Aurobindo says or the terms that he used with the older terms. He would have used it. They are not, all things cannot be substituted for other terms that were already in use. They are also great terms, but they are used in a different way. And Sri Aurobindo uses something in his own way, and let us stick to that. Because you will get confused if you are wanting to link it up with the things that you already have known or you have read, and then you want to use those terms to understand Sri Aurobindo's new terms. Sri Aurobindo talks about things in a much more comprehensive way. That amount of light that he has shown on intuition, that was never given before. That intuition, pages and pages he has given exposed on intuition. So that is something which is very different from the usual way intuition had been seen. It was, of course, recognized. You see, otherwise the mantras and all, they came. The phenomena was known, but how the phenomenon occurred, the origin and all, that has been worked out by Sri Aurobindo in a very great details. Akashic records are something that is something that is a fashionable word that is used. You see, you read where Mother has commented on in her collected works, you will see that there is a memory, terrestrial memory. If you read that thing of terrestrial memory, which Mother has said, you just look in the collected works of the Mother about terrestrial memory, where all the events of the art are recorded and kept. Then you will have some idea of the Akashic records. So I will request you to go to collected works of Mother and look at the terrestrial memory, because she doesn't use the word Akashic records, but she has used the word terrestrial memory. Anyway, you see that it is so difficult, even analyzing the vision in the Gita, or analyzing the Vasudeva experience which Mother gave. We would not have been able to understand that unless this light was shown by the Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. If you have to read an intuition, work on it, how do you begin? You go to the synthesis of yoga. This fourth last day, yesterday when I talked about the 4 methods of intuition, they're silencing the mind, the way of bhakti, and lifting your center of consciousness above your mind, and transformation of the intellect are all there in the, they have been taken from the synthesis of yoga. In fact, that was the part that I have taken. All the things that I am presenting here for the last few days are taken from Life Divine. Only that portion I have taken from synthesis of yoga, but you can go there and you can follow that. I'm very sorry that it was a very heavy topic and has been told in a very difficult way. But it is actually it is a very difficult thing, and to oversimplify it would also be unjustified. But what one can do. So I said that it is just peeping. It is just peeping from. It's just peeping from a window to see what is there. So I think anybody can give anybody can add something of his, you can add something if you want. But I would tell you that today we have the word unity everywhere. We want to be united, we want to have a unity, global unity and all that. And we see all these things of disunity everywhere, disharmony everywhere. And in consciousness, until we climb up, we go towards this, where actually the source of unity is. In the manifestation, the source of unity is in the overmind. And above the manifestation, the complete unity is there in the supermind, where the programming took place. Unless we go there, the world cannot have a true unity, in the sense where we are striving for unity. Still we want unity, because I told you that our intuition tells that that is something which you have to follow. But then we have the idea of self-determination, which is also important. Huh? The idea of self-determination. I want to have a you see, nations, they want to have a separate identity. So all the nations want to have a separate identity. Even in India, our splinter groups are there. They are tribals and all. They want to have the separate identities of their own, separate states of their own. So which is a deterrent to unity. But that idea of self-determination also is there. So all these things you can only reconcile when actually the consciousness is taken and journeyed along, and we go towards the overmind. Short of that, you cannot have a true unity, but you can have compromises, makeshifts and compromises. And remember again, the inconscious is there to negate everything that you do. The inconscious is completely conquered only in the supermind, because the overmind had to release multiplicity, and in that it had to release the opposites of everything. And in that way, it was also the father of the inconscious, the father of ignorance, the father of all things that are opposite to the true values. So that was nothing, that was no option. Because to build a variegated manifestation, you have to have inequality. You have to have all differences. So that's why in the overmind, you cannot have complete control over the inconscious. After all, because it has been ensured from there. So you have to go to supermind where actually the programming started. Then only you can have a full unity. Harmony in relationship is a very big thing. Let us see. I will try to touch it, but it is difficult. It is difficult because relationships means you are talking about interpersonal relations, and interpersonal relations, to bring in harmony there is beset with many things, because the interpersonal relations are seen in the context of our multiplicity. To bring relationships into context of what you call unity that is beyond multiplicity, you cannot do it unless there is a comradeship at the level of the soul. That's why Sri Aurobindo said, you see, very important with this thing that you have put, harmony in relationships, in liberty, equality and fraternity of the French Revolution. Sri Aurobindo said that liberty has given rise to the concept of democracy, equality has given rise to the concept of socialism, but fraternity, that has not been realized. Fraternity, they have wanted a mechanical comradeship, but true fraternity, true harmony can only occur in interpersonal sphere if there is a comradeship at the level of the souls. So a camaraderie of the souls, a comradeship at the level of the souls, that can actually bring harmony in interpersonal life. Short of that, how we can do? And that's why that has not been stabilized now. Only Sri Aurobindo said that when liberty and equality will be perfectly matched and aligned with each other, then the world will be ready for the true fraternity, the true soul comradeship. But we are moving towards that. That's one reason Mother said that the families are breaking all over, because the family was meant, each family was meant to be the first collectivity to rise to the supreme. As the individual can rise to the supreme, the collectivity has to rise to the supreme. And the first unit of collectivity to rise to the supreme was the family, but the family has failed in its function, and that is why the family is breaking all over the world. This is mother's explanation, and he said that now nature is wanting to make a different kind of family, a family based on soul kinship, based on soul relationship. So that kind of harmony will come in that way. Yes, bonds at the level of the psychic being. Psychic bonds means the bonds at the level of the psychic being, at the level of the souls. This question mark, I think that you have given the last question. I think you must be asking what is psychic bonds. Psychic bonds are the relationship at the level of the soul.
Thank you so much, Dr. Basu. There is one question I think we missed. How to be free from lower nature?
First thing is that you have to be connected with your psychic being. The first thing that you have to be connected with your psychic being. And then after that connection is there, then you have to work on the instruments through which the psychic being acts. Because the psychic being acts to the mind, the vital, and the physical. So the instruments are not worked upon. Psychic being alone will become, though it can do everything, but it will not be allowed to work. So then the second thing is that you have to work on your instruments, and then you have to combine all the three around this center, the psychic center. Then only you are ready to take the journey from lower nature to higher nature. So you have to be ready for that. Certain similar patterns in every phase of life is there because of the cosmic consciousness. We have the same archetypes. We have archetypes, lower archetypes. I'm not talking about the spiritual archetypes, but the Jungian archetypes or the psychological archetypes are there in the cosmic consciousness, where we observe there are similar patterns and are there because the archetypes are there which are presiding over these patterns. They are there in the cosmic consciousness. So you have that similar pattern of a relationship with your mother figure. It is there in the cosmic consciousness. You have that, or the similar patterns. You see, similar dreams come to us. We dream of snakes and all that, which have the same type of meaning. Is that because the same patterns can come? But we have to rise. No? We have to rise from the psychological archetypes to the higher archetypes. Then we can go to the source.
Well, a truly magnificent session, Dr. Basu. Thank you very much indeed. Very insightful and indicative that global unity has to depend on the attainment of knowledge, of realization of the overmind. It's a monumental task. And tomorrow we look at oneness within multiplicity. So thank you very much, Dr. Basu. Thank you everyone for participating in this session. And until tomorrow, 4 o'clock, goodbye.